The young athlete had always lived beneath the weight of expectations. Every morning began the same way, with the clang of metal plates in the gym, the steady rhythm of running shoes against the track, and the approving nods from coaches and friends who admired his physical strength. To them, he was the definition of power: broad shoulders, firm grip, a body sculpted by years of discipline and training. Yet inside, he carried a quiet unease that no one could see. People praised his strength as if it were the only thing that defined him. Children asked to touch his arms, friends called him their protector, and strangers often looked at him with awe. But when the noise of applause faded and he was left alone, he wondered if there was more to him than the muscles others admired. He sometimes felt like a statue, solid, strong, and admired from afar, but silent and hollow within. There were nights he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, asking himself questions that gnawed at his heart. Was strength only about lifting weights, breaking records, and carrying burdens others could not? Or could it mean something softer, quieter, something no one would ever cheer for? These thoughts left him restless, like carrying a heavy load no training could prepare him for. On one particular day, after finishing his morning workout, he walked through town, sweat still drying on his skin. He noticed how people moved around him, some with admiration, some with envy, but all with the same expectation that he was unshakable. He carried himself upright, shoulders broad, as if wearing armor that he could not remove. Yet beneath it all, he longed to be seen not for what his body could endure, but for what his heart could give. He passed by stores and faces that blurred together until his eyes caught sight of something different. An elderly woman stood outside a small grocery shop, struggling to gather her heavy bags. Her hands trembled under the weight, and her back bent with every attempt to lift them. People walked by, some glancing but not stopping, as if her struggle were invisible. For a moment, he too almost walked past, caught between the urge to keep his distance and the pull of something deeper. It was in that brief hesitation that he felt a question rise again inside him. Perhaps strength could mean more than showing power in the gym. Perhaps it could mean bending down, lowering oneself, and using power not to impress but to uplift. The thought lingered, soft but unshakable, as he took a step toward her. As he approached the woman, he noticed the lines etched across her face, like rivers carved by years of time and hardship. Her hands trembled against the weight of the grocery bags, the thin plastic biting into her skin. She looked up at him with tired eyes, not expecting help, almost as if she had already learned to carry her burdens alone. For a brief moment, he hesitated. He was used to lifting hundreds of pounds in the gym, used to people clapping when he broke records. But here there would be no applause, no medal waiting for him, just a frail woman and her quiet struggle. And yet, something inside him urged him forward. Without a word, he gently reached for the bags, his large hands steadying them as if they weighed nothing. The woman's eyes widened in surprise, then softened into gratitude. She released the bags into his care with a sigh of relief, as though letting go of more than just groceries. Together, they walked slowly down the street. Each step felt different to him, lighter, though the bags were full. The silence between them wasn't empty. It carried meaning, like an unspoken understanding. She eventually whispered her thanks, her voice fragile but warm, and it echoed in his heart, louder than the roar of any crowd. People around began to notice. Some paused, watching the muscular athlete carefully carrying groceries for a frail woman. A few smiled, others looked thoughtful, and some seemed almost puzzled that someone so strong could be so gentle. For the first time, he felt no need to flex or prove himself. His strength was not on display, it was in service. As they reached her small home, she turned to him with tears glistening in her eyes. She placed a thin, wrinkled hand on his arm, not to test his strength but to acknowledge his kindness. In her quiet way, she had given him something more valuable than applause or recognition of his humanity. Walking away, he carried no trophies, no medals, but he felt as though he had won something greater. His chest felt lighter, his heart fuller. He realized strength was not measured in how much he could lift, but in how gently he could carry what others could not. The world often expected him to show power through force, but in that moment he discovered a truth that no competition had ever taught him. Real strength lies in gentleness, and gentleness has the power to move hearts more than muscle ever could. That night, he sat quietly in his room, the evening light pouring through the window like soft gold. The memory of the woman's trembling hands and grateful eyes returned again and again, leaving him in a state of reflection. All his life, he had chased the image of strength the world wanted from him: bigger, faster, harder, tougher. But now he realized that the world's applause was fleeting, while the quiet warmth of that moment stayed like an ember in his chest. He thought of the people who had watched him earlier, the way their expressions shifted when they saw him help the elderly woman. Some had looked surprised, even confused. Perhaps they, too, were beginning to see that strength is not about intimidation, but compassion. He wondered how many times people had overlooked small chances to help, because they thought power was only about winning. He remembered the way he had almost walked past her, the way he had hesitated. That hesitation haunted him, because it revealed how close he had been to missing a chance that would change him forever. If he had kept walking, he would have remained trapped in the same old image of himself, admired but unseen, strong but empty. Helping her had not just lifted her burden, it had lifted his own. He leaned back, closing his eyes, and let the thought settle deep inside him. Strength, he realized, is not about how much weight you can push, but how much kindness you can carry into the world. Muscles can move stones, but gentleness can move hearts. And sometimes, moving a heart requires more courage than lifting a mountain. The next day, when he returned to the gym, people greeted him with the same admiration as always. Yet this time, he no longer needed their validation. He smiled back warmly, knowing that what defined him wasn't the iron he lifted, but the humanity he carried. The world might still see him as a strong athlete, but he now understood that real strength was found in the softness of his actions, not in the hardness of his muscles. As he stepped under the barbell and felt its familiar weight on his shoulders, he no longer trained only for himself. Every rep became a reminder, every drop of sweat a symbol not of proving power, but of preparing to use it gently, whenever life offered him the chance. Sometimes we believe that strength must always be loud, seen, and praised, yet the quietest acts can leave the deepest marks. Gentleness is not weakness, it's the kind of strength that reshapes lives, softens hearts, and leaves behind a legacy no medal can replace. Perhaps the question we must carry is this: when life offers us the choice between showing power or showing kindness, which will we choose? If this story touched you, share your thoughts below, and let's spread more moments of gentleness together. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tales of kindness.